Hey, Dr. Perkins, I was recently diagnosed with cancer, and the oncologist is telling me I need chemo. And I looked online, that's $27,000 for just like a 6-month course of treatment. Now, I've heard some rumblings online that they have a cure for cancer out there, but they're hoarding it. Is that true, or is that just crazy? Because I need to know.